Some 4.18 million Americans will turn 65 in 2025, and many of them will have to make a difficult and crucial decision about their Medicare coverage. Welcome to CU 2.0 podcast Greatest Hits number 27. On this show, from May 2023, Rock Carter tells exactly how credit unions can get involved in helping their members make decisions about Medicare. And if you think Medicare is to be easy, well, nope, it ain't. Get ready to hear the complexities. It's an informative show, a useful show, a show that many of your members will be glad you listened to. Listen up.
This is the CU 2.0 podcast with your host, Robert McGarvey. Big new ideas about credit unions. Big new ideas about credit unions. CU 2.0 podcast.
Medicare. You'd almost think it's a four-letter word, not the three-syllable word it is. That's because it's an immensely complicated issue, triggers a whole lot of cursing in some households. And remember, of course, Congress did write the federal laws that shape it, so what do you expect? As Americans approach 65, suddenly they have to make an immensely complicated decision about their health care. That's Medicare. That's complicated. How easy is any of this? It's not. But consider this an enormous opportunity for credit unions with their memberships that skew older. Credit unions can step in as trusted advisors and help members make better decisions while also bringing in a few dollars in fees into the credit union. That's win-win. But doing this requires skill. The complexities of Medicare demand talents to navigate it. Enter Rock Carter, president of Medicare CU, a CUSO set up to help credit unions help their members into good Medicare decisions. You may remember a recent show with Silver, the winner of CU 2.0's FinTech Madness in Las Vegas. Silver, which helps credit unions and their members with both Social Security and Medicare, is a related but fundamentally quite different approach. Credit unions contemplating offering senior members help with Medicare decisions are advised to listen to both podcasts. One of the two approaches just may suit your credit union better than the other. But know this, members need help making Medicare decisions. Credit unions are well positioned to provide that help. What are you waiting for? Listen up. So let's start all over again. You're Rock Carter. You're president of Medicare LLC, Medicare CU LLC, which is a CUSO. And how many credit unions are members?
Right now, 22, and we have approximately 33 that are in the process of signing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And all are owners of the CUSO. All customers are owners of the CUSO.
Correct. And then we return any dividends or any bonuses that we receive, we return that into the CUSO, at least part of it, and distribute that to our member credit unions. What's
the size range of the credit unions?
Right now, 10 billion in assets down to about 130 billion. We have every shape and size and geography that you would want.
Can you name the $10 billion one?
I cannot. They have... we have an NDA right now, and they're just in the process of getting launched. So I apologize. I can't share that.
No problem. That's why I asked, can you?
Yeah. Our largest one that's up and running is Belco Credit Union in Denver, Colorado.
And how big is that one?
I believe they're 6 or 7.
Whoa, these are big guys.
Yeah. The latter group, the 33 or so that are pending, and most of them have indicated an interest. Most of those are quite large. We did a national advertising campaign and then have attended a couple of conferences, including NACUSO, and several of those larger ones were represented there, and that's where that came from. And so the largest one we're dealing with is one of the top in the nation, and we're just going through the due diligence right now. So we anticipate having some very large credit unions as a part of the CUSO.
Now, where do you find what's the best hunting grounds for you?
Well, it really, from our point of view, is word of mouth has been terrific. We were very quiet. We've been in operation for 10 years, and we've been very quietly working to make sure that our process and our platform is scalable and that we had all the resources that we would need to really reach out. And so our hunting ground has been really in the Rocky Mountain region. And then, about 2 years ago, we decided it was time to go a little bit further. And so we expanded from there and into California and to the East Coast. And so we're thinking in terms of the hunting ground. There's no geography that limits us. We're very scalable from a remote point of view or boots on the ground. We have a very large organization that backs our agency, so it's quite nice to be scalable like that. So our hunting ground typically has been conferences, and then we've done some direct advertising through See You Today, which has been very effective. Those guys have been wonderful.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, what conferences have worked for you? Now, CUSO, I guess, but what else?
Yeah, NACUSO is exceptionally good, and then we've gone to state. The Go West used to be the Mountain West. We have done that one, and then the Utah League annual meeting, and then we did a small conference in Las Vegas for the California League as well.
That's a big league, the California and Nevada League. That's the monster.
Yeah, we're very excited. We're doing just a few state ones, but our success in terms of gaining traction and interest is really phenomenal. Everybody sees a need to help these senior members, and so when we speak about it, we were kind of the blue ocean group here for a while, and now there's 2 or 3 trying to compete in the space, and we've just kind of gotten a niche together, and we think we've got something pretty special. So we are scalable to these larger credit unions, which some of the other folks are not. And so and then we've done some of the due diligence and put some things together to make us a fairly attractive business partner for anybody, really.
And the largest, the baby boomers, the oldest baby boomers are about 76.
Right.
But that still means that half of the baby boom generation is still in the process of coming into Medicare.
You're absolutely correct.
And that's a huge number. So you got a good 10 years of runway here.
Yes, that's exactly true. And we know that it's helpful for those baby boomers. And then really that next group, the family that has to help them navigate some of the complications and the, it's convolution maybe is the way to say it. Medicare is not a very simple program. It seemingly is, you have to pick a plan every year, and you would think it would be fairly easy, but when it comes down to it, the seniors get a hold of information, and then they go to their children or family member or cousin or whatever it might be, and they might sign up for something that fits well for another person, but then they find themselves in a real mess. So a lot of what we do is help family and seniors kind of clean up their situation. And that really bodes well for that traction that I talked about in terms of member experience and really just a trustworthy source to have Medicare solutions there for those seniors and to have that trusted resource that knows what they're doing. They're experts. Our agents are.
Now, I've written a fair amount about Medicare, and what I've told people over the years is if you like differential calculus in college, you're going to love Medicare enrollment. You're going to really enjoy the hell out of it.
Well said.
Because there are multiple variables, and you make a bad pick on one variable, you're kind of screwed. That's the way it goes. And the other interesting thing about Medicare, it's a national program. Absolutely. But the rules vary a great deal from state to state.
Yeah.
Massachusetts has its own set of rules. New York has its own set of rules. Yeah. I live in Arizona, which basically, if you go into an Advantage plan at 65, you ain't getting out of that thing unless you move from Arizona. That's your only option.
Right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And honestly, the variables continue to swirl, especially when you have various carriers on a Part C type program. They can change things from year to year, their formularies, the benefits that they have.
Well, if you have Part D, which is not no Part D plan,
right.
They're all pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the degrees of badness. But the formulary changes every year.
Yes.
There's one particular drug I've been on for a while, and every year it changes because the formulary changes.
Amen. My wife, we're 60, and she has a particular medication. And I keep looking out of curiosity on the formularies for some of the major plans that we have in our geography. And just like you, every year that changes in terms of what's covered and what's not, and whether that particular drug that she has, which is very expensive. So I'm looking forward to those Medicare days to help relieve a little bit of the expense. But it's tough.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think if you look at Part D and plug in that drug, you're going to go, oh my God, it costs more.
Yeah, potentially you're right. That's so true.
I know the White House just announced much lower prices for insulin, which is a great thing for insulin takers. But that's only so far have we seen big price drops in insulin.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where things go as all the baby boomers do age in, and there's so much expense going through this program.
Well, I'm an old guy. Medicine in my lifetime changed from something a doctor did to something labs and pharmaceutical companies handle. The doctor's just kind of an intermediary on the way to the labs and the pharmaceutical companies.
Truly.
And so if your drugs aren't working and you can't afford your drugs, you got a real problem. Now, yeah. I assume you don't need access to core system or anything like that at the credit union.
No, that's a really good point. Our interaction with the credit union, depending upon what they want to do, there's some that are very guarded in terms of opening the opportunity to visit with members, and you have to get to that at some point. You have to talk and meet with the members, as you can appreciate. So we approach it from the point of view that we want to reach out and to the member via the telephone. So we are compliant and looking at the member agreement and the TCPA to make sure that we can do that. But we do a no obligation and no cost review of their Medicare services, and that doesn't require much at all. So when we talk to the credit union in terms of the setup, we ask for those lists, and we only get so much at a time, maybe 3 or 4 months at a time. But the idea is we need name, address, phone number, and email if they want us to email, or they can do the email marketing. So we're very careful to be a very low level privacy provider. So in terms of them having to vet us, while we do take it seriously and have our SOC 2 level compliance and some of the best security measures in the field and HIPAA certifications and CMS certifications, the idea is that we really don't need core connection. We just need the ability to talk with the member. And then once we contact a member, we make and facilitate a meeting via Zoom, or we'll come to a branch. It just depends on what they want to do and where our agents are.
And at what age do you contact members? At 64?
Yeah, we will typically reach out a year before. As you can appreciate, most everybody is working a little bit later than they used to in terms of the age group. So 64, we just let them know that that's a service that the credit union provides. And typically that's an email to introduces a senior member to the idea that the credit union is a source. And then at 64 and a half, we send out a birthday card. Happy 64th and a half birthday, and let them know that this Medicare may be a decision that they have to make coming up at 65. But we also kind of keep track of them. If they're going to continue to work past 65, there are certain things that we help them and consult with them and to make sure that they're taken care of, whether it's through their work healthcare plan, or if they need to transfer on to Medicare, we make sure that we contact them and help them through that process in terms of their Social Security and also the Medicare signing up for that. So they avoid those lifetime penalties and make sure that they're lined up appropriately based on what their life plans are.
Yeah, you just mentioned it, so let me ask you a question about it. Now, at 65, you have to enroll in Medicare or penalties will follow, except if you're enrolled in a qualifying alternative, usually employer healthcare plan, right?
Correct.
And you can't just say, man, I'm feeling healthy now. I think I'll kick this down the road for 66, 67. You go in, yeah, you can get in, but it's going to cost you more.
That's right. Those penalties do not expire. Those are lifetime penalties for not enrolling and doing the things properly in order. And that's one of the things that we focus on is really solid education and that transparency, and to help them navigate that process to avoid those penalties and make sure that they're properly covered and lined up in terms of what they have to do.
And at 65, you get guaranteed acceptance regardless of pre-existing conditions.
That's correct.
A financial penalty.
That's correct.
Not true if you kick the can down the road to 66, unless you have one of those qualifying employer plans. It's bridging that. It's A, the insurers can say, nope, don't want you, or B, they can say, sure, we'll take you, but that price you saw, no, yours is 3 times that.
And it's so important for people to understand those trade-offs. Now, most people that have health conditions are sensitive to those kinds of things, but one little mistake can really cost a member substantial amounts, just like you're alluding to. And so we really try and help them become educated in advance. So one of the things we concentrate on is having seminars, educational seminars for senior members that are 64, approaching 65, and make sure that they hear these things and that they're repeated often in terms of the communication, but also in these seminars.
And your primary competition, your biggest competition, I assume, is AARP.
Actually, they are a plan that you have to be careful of how you say this, but it's available for us to resell the AARP plan through United Healthcare. Right. Because we're an independent broker and not tied to just one carrier, we have the ability to represent multiple top-level carriers in each geography that we work in.
Well, I'm just thinking you're 64 and a half. You're going to begin to get a bombardment of Medicare sign-up email, mail, physical mail. So it's most physical mail you're going to see in your lifetime nowadays. It all comes so it's like a blizzard.
It is. I work with my mother, who's 84. She's been in Medicare for some time, but every year she just anecdotally, knowing that I'm in this business, she collects and keeps all of it. And this last year, literally, the stack was this big for the right before open enrollment started.
And she's 84.
And she's 84.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Mainly those were Advantage plans, I assume.
Yes, correct. With little trinkets and bells and whistles that might attract somebody that has an existing plan to go to another plan, whether it's silver sneakers or money or cash back in certain zip codes. It's
free hearing aids up to a certain dollar.
Yes. Yeah.
Not covered by Medicare, but in this plan, come on down.
Right.
Free dental care up to a certain limit, which is very low.
Yeah.
Don't try to get implants there. Nope.
Right. Yeah, you have to be very careful. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I find it, to me, I view it almost as sadistic that at age 65, Americans have to make very complicated decisions about their long-term health care. And we are talking long-term. Yeah, you hear this thing about, open enrollment, you can switch. Yeah, you can, kind of, sort of. But in some states, you cannot switch from Advantage to traditional Medicare. You just can't do it. Well, you can, but at enormous penalties.
Yeah, and it costs you time and aggravation, and there's just so much to it. But you're right, to make a 65-year-old, and then every year thereafter to evaluate that plan and to make sure their doctors, their medications, their networks, and formularies, everything at all, they have to make sure that still aligns with their needs, because you get into March, and if you've selected something wrong, we alluded to this earlier, you're in a world of hurt for at least the next 9 months.
And there are some tools. The Medicare website, for instance, is a pretty cool tool where you can go and enter the prescription drugs you use. And it will show you the Part D, that's the prescription drug plans in your area and what you'd pay for those drugs over the course of a year. It's pretty cool. I've never checked to see how accurate it is, but it's mathematical. I assume it's pretty accurate. I don't see how you can mess it up too much.
We rely on that somewhat too. We have a separate CRM system that tracks the formularies, and so we have a little bit of a verification. But that website has been historically quite helpful and accurate, and we encourage members to take a look at that. CMS has some wonderful resources on their website. Now, it goes to the same thing we talked about before. There's so much information and so much to cut through that sometimes complicates things rather than clarifies things. But yeah, you're right. Great resource.
Well, and even you can look at Advantage plans. Some parts of the country, A, don't even offer them. B, if they do, you don't want to be in them. Yet, I remember a few years ago, I was talking with a very prestigious doctor in Chicago who was a senior faculty member at Northwestern Medical School. Very smart guy. And he told me he'd enrolled his mother in Advantage. And I said, what, you trying to kill her? And he said, no, you don't understand. All the doctors that I would use or I'd want her to use are in that plan. And he said, you have to look from plan to plan to plan to find that. Now, this is a doctor. He's a smart guy. He also knows who the good doctors are.
Right.
Which I don't, certainly not in Chicago. But,
right.
But if you can pick and choose intelligently, you can make some good choices. It's such a hard series of decisions to make when you're 65, though.
It is, and it speaks to the idea of having some help to navigate. You still have to make some decisions that you might have to choose one thing or another, but to have someone help you navigate and get down to that level of truly, who is your doctor? Who do you want to have as a physician? What do you need from formulary point of view? Where do you live, and what are your plans? What's your health situation? All of those things will impact and inform which one that really makes sense for you. But not a lot of folks have a doctor or son that can help them navigate. They really have to do that on their own. So that's the resource we're trying to bring, is that education and that advocacy and that independence that we have, that we're not stuck with one particular plan. We really try and make it so that they have the ability to choose what's best.
So how does it work financially with a credit union? You enroll a member in one of your plans, or often it'll be two plans, part a Med Sup plan and a Part D plan, or if it's Part C Advantage, then it's just one plan. How does the revenue split?
Yeah, so it works out really well. But what we do is there's licensing involved. They have to become licensed and certified in order to receive a portion of what we call the general agency commission. And then depending upon how involved they want to be, the sliding scale, as you can appreciate, there are competitors out there that are telling credit unions, hey, you can earn $610 for each sale. But when it's $610, you have to do everything. So the credit union has to hire and have that representative underneath their umbrella. And then you don't have the expertise, of course, but they can train and get them up to speed over a period of time. But that's one side of the scale. And then the sliding scale to a fully managed plan. And we have certainly all of the scale here at Medicare CU. So, but our preference and our the reason for our success is credit unions come to us often and say, hey, we do not want to build the pencil and sell it. We want to just resell the pencil that you have. And so what we do is we provide the full service, and we take the lion's share of the remuneration. And so the credit union will get between $50 and $100 for someone that's new to Medicare, and then probably half that, $35 to $50 for those that renew on a Part C. So it just depends. And of course, licensing is a big issue. Some don't want to be licensed, and then we can figure out marketing fees and things like that. But we share the revenue, and then as a QSO, like we say, if we have bonuses or we have favorable underwriting and so forth, we can share back to the QSO and help those credit unions participate on that level as well.
Now, the credit union, to receive that full fee, has to be a licensed what? What do they need a license as?
Yeah, it depends on their state, but most states will have either a full producer or a life and health license that they'll be required to have. And not only just a producer, but they'll have to have an agency, or the credit union will have to have a license as well.
Does the credit union need the license, or an individual in the credit union?
Both. So again, it depends on the jurisdiction, but most states require an agency, and then they require someone that is appointed as the principal of that agency. So you usually have both.
And so a credit union signs up with you. You talk with them about how we're going to market this. How does that conversation usually go?
Yeah.
I mean, almost every credit union I know has a lot of baby boomer members.
Yes.
That means there's real significant need for this, particularly among the ones who haven't quite enrolled in Medicare yet. And that's still millions and millions and millions of aging baby boomers.
Yeah, so true.
So the need is there inside the credit union.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, Robert, it's really quite simple. We sit down with them. We have a sample marketing plan that gives all the options. We built all the collaterals so that they're compliant with CMS, the Center for Medicare Services. And then what we do is we walk through with them and discover how they best want to market it, whether it's via email or advertising, phone. And then we have different options that they then would execute on. So as an example, right before open enrollment, it's the end of a quarter. So in September, we encourage them whether it's an email or an actual snail mail statement, we put a little statement stuffer in that says, hey, remember, we do have and offer Medicare services, and here's the number to call. So that's just one example. And then how they want to tackle it in terms of advertising, web presence, we have all that built for them, and then they can take it and use the compliant language and build something on their side for, as an example, their website, adding to their insurance page or adding a flyer or a banner for Medicare in those particular times when it's most relevant.
So when a member calls this phone number, what answers it? The credit union, or is it identified as an insurance agency? What answer did they get?
Yeah, they'll depending upon how it's set up, because we can have a fully managed program where we answer it in a way that's thank you for calling Medicare CU, and on behalf of XYZ Credit Union, how can we help you? And then the other side of that coin is if they want to set it up and do more of the work, they could actually answer it by the credit union's insurance agency name or just the credit union itself.
Why would a credit union want that option? I'm thinking, I don't know anything about Medicare. I actually happen to know a fair amount, but I'll just pretend I'm a typical credit union executive. I don't know much about Medicare. So I'm going to have my people who don't know anything about Medicare answer the phone saying, hey, I don't know anything about Medicare. Let me help you. So, why? Why would I do that?
Yeah, and we really counsel hard against it. It's a very attractive amount of money compared to what we might offer on a fully managed plan. But you hit it right on the head. There's no expertise, or it's in the process of developing expertise. And it's 2 years really for an agent to be seasoned enough to really handle, the difficult questions that you and I have talked about a little bit. You can get by at a basic level, but you're not an expert. So we really counsel hard. You have to understand when you pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other. So if you want all that dollar, you're going to have to make sure that the competencies are there, and oftentimes they're not. So you'll exacerbate that program that we talked about, or the fundamental issue of people putting someone in the wrong plan and then having to fix it later. And then the credit union takes the black eye. They're not calling that competitor and saying, hey, what's going on? They're calling the credit union saying, my heavens, you guys put me in the wrong plan, and here I am now paying twice as much as I should for this particular drug.
Well, Part D, you can actually remedy that. That's easy.
Part D is right. Yeah.
So once a year, you're still going to be stuck for a while.
Yeah.
So if the formulary is changed and you see in January your drug price has jumped 100% or 200%, you're stuck until next January, man. But you can change. That's the good news there. Traditional Medicare is hard to change. You go into a plan at 65. It's difficult to change from one plan to another plan. Not impossible, but it's not the easiest thing in the world.
No, and again, that goes
Part
to
C. I think everybody can change every year. Part C, the Advantage plans.
Right.
Because I know that because I get stacks and stacks of basically postcards at this point. Sometimes with pictures of professional athletes. That's always good to know.
Yeah, well, Joe Namath, everybody knows Joe.
Hey, Joe. Hey, I like Joe. I grew up in Greater New York. Joe was a childhood hero.
I had the poster on the back of my door as a kid. So yeah. I love Joe.
I'm not going to take Joe's advice about Medicare or really any other insurance product, to be honest.
No, but nylons I might.
Yeah, yep. Hey, he was a heck of a great football player. I
He
maybe
was.
talk football with him, but
Yeah.
not going to Medicare. No, thank you.
Yeah, or there's
like it a lot,
AJ,
but now when a credit union says no, we don't want to do this. Why do they say that?
It's really interesting, the prioritization and revenue needs that they have. They may have a strategic plan that just puts too much into a year, and then they look at this. The revenue is a slow build, as you can appreciate. These members, when they sign up, you get that renewal, and then the next one is a renewal, and so it's a very slow build on the revenue side. And so they look at that sometimes and they say, well, it's a great idea, a great service, but we have some other priorities that will be of more benefit to us as an organization right now. And so they don't necessarily say permanently no. It's, hey, will you circle back with us in 6 or 7 months and let's revisit it for the next year on our strategic plan. So we've never had anybody really shut us down cold and say we're not interested and that's not really good for us. Everybody says, hey, we've got members galore in this demographic.
Right.
We want to do good things for them. We just don't have a lot of lending. We get a little deposits from them, which is important right now, but we truly would love to have this because it's the largest decision that this member has to deal with in their lives every year is their health care. So that's typically it'll come back. But I can honestly tell you, it's been a long time since somebody has said, hey, we can't afford to do this. They always get in the queue. We get the due diligence, the NDAs, the agreements, and then it's just a matter of when they want to launch. So it's an interesting thing. I've been working with credit unions for 35 years, and it's a very short sales cycle in some instances, and most of the time sales cycles with credit unions are very long. So it's a kind of refreshing thing to be involved in this business to help them see what's going on and help them see the need that they're going to address, and they usually jump right in and get going.
Well, I think since there's no core integration, you take away a big sticking point with many credit unions. The only real sticking point is, do I want you using my name? That's the only sticking point whatsoever that I can see.
Yeah,
but
right.
Every year I get 2, 3, 4, 5 friends and relatives asking me questions about Medicare because they think I know something about it. And I'm pretty honest that I have significant knowledge, but it mainly pertains to Arizona. And I'm an absolute enemy of Part C Advantage plans. So can't discuss them with you. So at least I'm honest about my shortcomings.
Hey, that's where it starts, is honesty.
And so how's a credit union going to go out and hire someone who even has the knowledge that I have? It's not going to be easy.
No, and the competitors that we're working against today, what they do is they say you need to identify someone that's already there internally, and then we'll help train them and get them ready to offer Medicare, and then we'll stand them up within 30 days. And I cringe at the idea of somebody with 30 days of education, basic education on Medicare and certified to sell Medicare. I would not turn them loose on my parents. So there you go.
The only way I would is if that person had spent significant time enrolling his or her mother and father in Medicare, and they'd done all the work and looked at all the options, which very few people would do. If they'd done that, I might think they were trainable, but they'd have to be trained.
Yeah.
So,
well,
if you haven't even done that much, I don't really want to talk to you. So.
Right. And then, but imagine if you get into a dual coverage situation where Medicare and Medicaid, and they don't have training that readily is available. So they really can't answer questions, and heaven forbid they try. So you're exactly right.
And I do think credit unions have a position where they can be a trusted authority. And if I'm going to trust you with my money, trust you with my finances to some extent, it's not illogical for me to trust you with my Medicare choices. And for many seniors, probably half their medical expenses as seniors are a big part of their annual income and expense outgo. I mean, this is not like some trivial thing like where you buy your gasoline.
We see it exactly the same way.
So this is a core focus, I think, for credit unions is forget selling indirect auto loans or getting indirect auto loans. Think about seniors and Medicare.
Right.
So,
Well, in the level, we have really quite a following on the Google reports after our services are rendered, and that really pays. It's really important what you said in terms of trusting us as an agent of the credit union to use their name, and
right.
that's something that we take so incredibly serious. So when somebody qualifies to be an agent for Medicare CU, being an agent and a competent agent is the first part. And that's extremely important, as we've talked about. But the second one is appreciating the affinity that the credit union has with that member and the value of that relationship over a period of time and what it means to the credit union if you mess that up or you complicate that. So again, the call goes to the credit union. It does not come to us. So we really focus on teaching these agents the credit union way and to make sure that member is taken care of in an appropriate way. And then we have quality controls that we follow up on and make sure that they're contacted 2 to 3 times a year to make sure that things are going well with their plan. So there's a back end that really speaks to the quality control and the investment that we have to make sure that relationship is guarded and we call it sacred, but it's just extremely important that is maintained and that there's that level of trust between all 3 parties.
You contact enrolled members 2 or 3 times a year to check on how satisfied they are.
We do.
I have never heard from AARP.
Right. No,
yeah. I don't have any particular problems, and if I did, I'd solve them myself. But I just, that would be a wonderful service if you call it. Hey, my Part D, I can't afford the damn drugs. I need help here, and that would be great to have that call coming in.
Yeah, and we will do a telephone call, we'll do emails, we'll do text. It all depends on what the member has requested in terms of our method of contact. But it's the one.
Yeah, if I'm a credit union exec, how long does it take me to teach someone to be able to talk about auto loans? And I'd say if it's a reasonably clever person, I could probably teach them the basics in half a day.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm not saying there aren't going to be complicated cases that would fall out of that lesson, but they could ask somebody else about those. There'll be few. Half a day, pay attention. This is what you need to know about auto loans. Medicare is going to take a heck of a lot more time to explain because it's so much more complicated and there's so many more moving parts. It's I don't even know why a credit union would think about trying to train someone to do that. It's hard.
Well, yeah, and if I can quote you on that, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, you can quote me on that because I've been wrestling with this, trying to help friends and relatives, etc., for some years now. And every year there are new wrinkles too. It changes. That's the beauty of it. Formularies change, everything changes, and then there are these big surprises like, oh, Medicare doesn't work in foreign countries. No, it doesn't really. There are a couple. I think there are a couple of legacy plans that did, but I don't think they're sold anymore.
No, they're not. They're expired or grandfathered out. You're correct.
Yeah, if you were in it, you still have it, but you cannot enroll in it today, and you haven't been able to enroll in it for 10 years.
Right.
So people will still say, "Oh, I know somebody who got Medicare paid for their health care in France." I said, "Yeah, well, ain't going to pay for yours."
No. And then really you look at this demographic again, the over 65 crowd, they're traveling a little bit and oftentimes trying to take advantage of those golden years and the retirement savings and get out and travel. So those things, again, are things that we address in our seminars and in our educational materials to make sure people know, hey, if you're going to Mexico or South America or Europe or wherever you want to go, just understand and know what your options are.
So do you cover this? Probably a small market segment, but it's not insignificant. Americans who want to retire abroad, to Mexico primarily, but then there are other places that figure in that. And again, you have the Medicare problem. It doesn't work there. Sorry. Do you cover that in those?
No, we really don't. We don't provide that service yet. I have a really good friend that's 64 and he's retiring as an expat in Costa Rica. And he's asked me the same question. And I said, today, I have no idea how to help you have insurance in a foreign country. It just doesn't exist in our window of what we're doing and what we're paying attention to. But we're looking at it. It's just like you said, there's just not a lot of call. And so our concentration is more on that mainstay of people that are here and staying here.
And it's so complicated, just as every state is different with Medicare, every country is different. Many European countries provide, quote, free, close quote, medical care for legal residents. So how do you become a legal resident? Well, that varies from country to country. So I can't just give you a blanket thing. It's,
Right. It's a very specialized market, to be sure.
It's fascinating. Well, I'm glad you're coming on. So how many competitors do you have?
We're aware of three, and in different respects. One or two in particular that are really concentrating on credit unions. A few of the others, two or three others that have stumbled onto credit unions that are a marketing organization that just contacted a credit union. So one off, you have a large-sized FMO, a field marketing organization that's working with a credit union here and there. But two that are focused on credit unions. And one of them, like I say, is that, hey, we'll teach and train your person and they get up to speed and you get all this money. And, if I had...
That's a different business than yours, really.
Oh, much, much different.
I don't see them as competitive. I see that as a choice. Do you want to rent a car at Avis anytime you need it, or do you want to buy a car and always have it in your driveway? Yeah, it's both ways are good ways to get around. What works for you?
Yeah, and we use the old pencil analogy. I mean, do you want to go cut the wood and get the lead and the eraser and all the parts and put the pencil together and sell it? Or do you want the pencil to sell? And we'll take care of building the pencil.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey again, and that's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support.
The CU 2.0 podcast.